I grew up in a home that was literally being built around us. Over the years, my dad, who is very talented, was always working on home improvements, including building out multiple additions to our house and building a garage almost as big as the house itself. One of the many things that I learned early on was the importance of beginning a project well. There was, of course, the planning stage where the idea was formed, plans were made, materials were purchased. And then there was the first steps of the work itself, which was just as important. Whether laying flooring, pouring the foundation for the garage, or framing an addition, those first steps had to be done with great care, making sure that things were level, that angles were accurate. Because if they weren't, what followed would be off, a little askew, not quite right. The integrity of the build would be compromised. Now, this didn't happen often. My dad is pretty meticulous. But there were cues that echoed from the work site that signaled when something was going to have to be reworked. And these cues may or may not have contributed to my sometimes colorful vocabulary. But the importance of beginning a project well would always prevail. And Dad would rework what needed tweaking, ensuring the foundation of the project was solid. In his letter to early Christians, Peter is underscoring the importance of beginning well, the importance of a sure foundation to a community of people learning to follow Jesus in turbulent times, to a community who has chosen the way of Jesus when doing so wasn't done out of obligation or tradition or cultural norms, when doing so often felt more like swimming upstream. And to these early Christians, Peter reminds them that their beginning, their foundation, is Jesus himself, who is the cornerstone. Yet he is a cornerstone like no other. Jesus is a living stone. Peter goes on to say that those learning to follow Jesus are also living stones, being built and shaped as we, are willing in Jesus. And with Jesus as the cornerstone, as the beginning, the foundation, this is a different kind of building. As the foundation, as the living cornerstone, Jesus is spiritual nourishment, marvelous light, and mercy. Jesus moves in a way that results in the building up of grace and love in and through those who say yes to being entrusted in his care and in turn recognize themselves as living stones. Which sounds lovely enough, doesn't it? But at the same time, what does being a living stone really mean? What does it look like? Let me share a story with you. About 10 years ago, while serving up north, we gathered on a Sunday morning with our bishop, Anne Germond, for a service of confirmation for a group of youth ranging in age from about 11 to 15. Now, this group was about as diverse a group as you could get, not only in age and stage, but in interest and in skills, which, let me tell you, made for interesting confirmation classes. On the morning of confirmation, as Bishop Ann welcomed and greeted confirmation candidates, she gave them baskets of stones. Stones of various shapes, sizes, and colors, and had them ensure that every person in the congregation took a stone as they arrived. She didn't tell any of us what this was about, and we were all a little confused. As people arrived and were asked to take a stone, they'd ask why, and the kids just kept saying, "I don't know." So there we were, each of us with a stone in our hand or our pocket as we began worship that morning. As Bishop Ann started her sermon, she instructed the confirmation candidates to go around and collect the stones from everyone. These stones that they had just handed out 20 minutes before, and to arrange them on the floor in the chancel, in the area leading up to the altar. As she continued to preach, the kids did as she asked. They went out and they collected the stones. They huddled on the floor in the chancel and quietly worked away at arranging the stones. I'm sure it comes as no surprise to hear that Bishop Ann was preaching about being living stones. As she was concluding her sermon, she left the pulpit and made her way over to the stones that the kids had arranged. Now remember, these kids had no heads up that they were going to be doing this. And as I mentioned, this was a diverse group of young people who all came at things so differently. Bishop Ann really had no idea exactly what these kids were going to do with these stones. This could have gone all sorts of sideways. But the kids, they took these stones of various shapes, sizes, and colors and randomly arranged them into the shape of a large heart with a cross in the middle. When Bishop Ann asked them what this represented to them, they responded by saying that God brings together all sorts of people with all their uniqueness, surrounds them with love, and asks them to share that love in the world. That morning, as people made their way to the altar for communion, they walked around this image made by these incredible young people who had just affirmed their baptismal vows through confirmation. And let me tell you, the presence of the Holy Spirit was palpable. This impacted the community in a real significant way. So significant that a group of handy parishioners took the stones and affixed them to a large wooden background, just as the kids had arranged them, creating a beautiful piece of art that was hung in the entranceway of the church, a reminder that they were a diverse and unique group of living stones being built up to share God's love. Friends, this is our reminder here this morning. As we celebrate baptism, we are reminded that we are a diverse and unique group of living stones being built up to share God's love. We are reminded about the importance of beginning well, beginning with a sure foundation, and we are reminded of who this is. Jesus, which is such good news. Because it means that it isn't about us measuring correctly, leveling things out just right, or ensuring that we have all the best quality materials in hand. It's about Jesus, in whom we are built into a spiritual house, a holy priesthood, a living shelter in the world, whose doors are open to all who seek to grow more deeply into the gift of belovedness and belonging, a gift already given by God. Thanks be to God.